We are having a special show this morning in which we are having a group of sheriffs. Man, I'll tell you what, this room here is absolutely loaded. And I mean that literally and figuratively. It's loaded with men who are loaded with guns. We have sheriffs from 7 different counties here with us this morning. And in between breaks, this is a kind of an interesting group. We have a group of sheriffs here who are all candidates running for different counties. And so I'm going to have them kind of go around the room a little bit and introduce themselves, do a quick, maybe a little bit of a bio, tell you what county they're in, and then we're going to touch on some questions that have been submitted to us via email or phone calls or whatever, and give these guys an opportunity to talk to you a little bit about some topics that are important to us as citizens. So first of all, I'm going to read these guys in no particular order. We've got Don Crowley, who is running in Shannon County. We have Kevin Jotz, who is running from Oregon County. We have Wes Ellison, who is running in Texas County. We have Rory Calhoun, who is running in Ripley County. We have Jim Heddleston, who is running in Howell County. And we have Ron Wright, who is running in Wright County. So I'm going to ask if we can, as we go around, if everybody can just do a quick hello and introduce themselves. So I guess we can start on one end of the room. We don't have 7 in the studio, or 8, actually. So go ahead, Rory, if you could kind of give us a little bit of a backgrounder.
My name's Rory Calhoun. I'm running for sheriff of Ripley County, and almost like everybody in here, I'm running to change the image of the sheriff's department. I've got 10 years in the military, and I got about 8 years in law enforcement. I bounced back and forth from Georgia to Missouri when my mom and dad split up, so I've kind of made my homes in 2 different states, but I firmly planted my feet here about 9 years ago, and so I plan to stick around and hopefully make a difference.
Outstanding. We are back. This is America's Voice. My name is Mike Evans. You're listening to us on 107.1 The Point. This is the Ozarks Best News Talk Network. We're having a special constitutional sheriff's show this morning where we have 7 sheriffs in the room from 7 different counties. We talked about the war on the sheriff's office that was attempted back in 2007. By the way, I got that date wrong, folks. It was 2007, not 2009. And what we're going to try to do is make sure that after this election cycle that we get a constitutional amendment to protect the office of the county sheriff permanently embedded in our Constitution so that it cannot be changed. The second issue we talked about was nullification, which is essentially the sheriff deciding what laws they're going to enforce. Realistically, I mean, we're not talking about, about not doing their job, but we are talking about doing their job intelligently and with some respect for the citizenry around them. And one of the other topics that I've got a favorite area for is the professional posse. And when I say this, folks, please understand the context in which we're talking about this. We're not talking about a posse like you saw in the old cowboy movies. We're not talking about 5 guys going out there with their squirrel guns and going hunting in the woods for Rambo. What we are talking about is when the sheriff's department, which happens to be, in most cases, once you get outside of a city, we've got a huge swath of area here where, in many cases, we'd be very, very overwhelmed if a situation happened like what happened in Aurora, Colorado the other day. And so the areas or the topics of the things that I saw the other day, or that kind of crossed my mind the other day, and I made some notes on it, were, as an example, doctors. These would be people that you would be have an agreement with in advance that you would be able to deputize for a short period of time for an exigent emergency. And something along the lines of a doctor who might teach first aid or CPR or assist with widespread trauma in the event that there was some sort of an emergency. 2, attorneys who might be able to handle lawsuits pro bono to either defend or assist the sheriff's office in defense of lawsuits, which would save money for the county, and or assist as Sheriff Mack did in fighting an unconstitutional law proactively against either the state or the federal government. For those who don't know, Sheriff Mack took a case all the way to the Supreme Court and won. Accountants. Accountants would be helpful in doing something like assisting in financial tracing of illicit money when you got these guys who are out there moving volumes of money from illicit drug transactions and stuff like that. Or something maybe not quite so critical in everybody's mind, but how about handling special accounting for grants? when you get a grant, the government expects you to come back and explain how you spent that money. Well, you guys aren't accountants. You know how to use a calculator, but you sure may not be real well versed on a spreadsheet. And having an accountant in there who can maybe handle some of that stuff for you and do it pro bono, where they're not billing the county back. That's their deputization. That's their assistance, and that's their participation. Right. Another area would be special training, or individuals with special training. And in this instance, I'm thinking about guys who might be ex or active military, and they have special training, and they're pre-screened and pre-approved to step in when there's a situation. An example would be an EOD specialist. My son has just got back from 2 tours in Afghanistan. Well, if you've got somewhere where there's a bomb and you guys and it's outside the scope of the ability or the training or the local resources that you've got, maybe you can call in a guy who's got some EOD specialty from the military. He might be a good candidate to help out. Guys who have sniper training, search and rescue training, canine specialties, especially canine specialties for search and rescue and or the drug dogs and those types of the cadaver dogs, that kind of thing. Pilots or boat owners who might be able to assist you in search and rescue, especially in those counties where we've got these huge federal land areas. And then ranchers who might be able to supply horses for search and rescue, or manhunts where you've got guys that, we need to get into inaccessible state and federal lands where you can't normally get a 4-wheel drive in there. The same thing with specialty vehicles, like maybe you've got a motorcycle dealer in the area who's willing to step up to the plate and help out with some 4-wheelers or motorbikes for areas where you need to be able to get to. Okay. Go ahead, Rory. Rory had a comment.
I noticed there's a lot of reserve officers that are actually licensed officers that just doesn't have a full-time job.
There you go.
Those officers can be used for a lot of different things, as far as if you wanted to pull some overtime, or if you needed somebody to come in and fill in for another shift, or if you needed to expand your manpower
for a short period of time.
You could use those officers because they're deputized and they've been through the training. And another thing, when I was in Douglas County, I worked for Douglas County Dive Rescue, so I have all my scuba gear and I have a boat, so we could use that with a few other my friends that know exactly about scuba diving, for if there's a vehicle that went in the river, or a stolen weapon, or a dead body, we could go look at.
Or hopefully a live one if you can find them fast enough.
Right. But using reserve officers, and I've got friends that are attorneys, and that will, and they've even approached me and said, hey, we're willing to write grants for you. We're willing to help you out pro bono.
Mm-hmm. There's a perfect one, by the way, writing grants, right? You guys should not be spending your time behind a typewriter. We have a special constitutional sheriff's show. I believe we have Sheriff Richard Mack on the line with us this morning as well now. Sheriff, are you with us?
I sure am, Mike, and I apologize for being late.
Thank you very much for calling in, and I understand that's not a problem. We're glad that you're able to make it. We've got 7 sheriffs sitting here in the room. And, boy, it's been a kind of an interesting conversation. I know you're not local, so you haven't been able to hear it, but it's been a kind of a fun show.
Well, I can imagine. I've done plenty of those, and I appreciate all of them for their courage and their willingness to serve, both in the law enforcement community and then as just a sheriff. And Mike, you've had me on your show before, and you know me well enough to know that.
Yes, sir.
My whole message is for every sheriff and every sheriff candidate in this country, it's not time just to think outside the box. It's time to walk outside the box. And we've got to walk the talk. We've got to walk the walk as sheriffs and as Americans. And there's every person in your studio there, all 7 of them, will swear an oath in God's name to uphold and defend, protect, and preserve the United States Constitution. Most of them have already sworn that oath. The question is, who will keep that oath? Who will actually stand for God-given American liberty? It's not just a matter of who's going to make sure that the DUIs are kept in check, or that we're having traffic problems, and that they'll take care of traffic problems. They'll serve papers. They'll run the jails. They'll put the bad guys in jail. I would say that all 7 of them can do that. But who is really going to protect the people from the incursions of the federal government?
Amen.
Who's going to make sure that people are safe from tyranny and government criminality? And we already have sheriffs all across this country fighting the United States Forest Service who have been abusing their citizens. Poor John Lope out in Siskiyou County, California. He's having a horrible time with the federal government coming in and trying to destroy the entire county. Sheriff in Oregon are fighting the Forest Service. They're fighting regulations and the EPA and land grabs. And let me remind everybody, all these bureaucracies in Washington, D.C. that are trying to force people off their land or tell them how to run their land and tell them how to do this and that, bureaucratic policies do not supersede the Bill of Rights.
Thank you.
The IRS wants us to believe that they do.
Yeah.
But every one of those still have to go by the Fourth Amendment and the protections that we have in this country. And for every sheriff in this country to get together and say, you know what, federal government, we want to get along with you. But there's a few things we're not going to allow to occur in our counties, and that is the violation of the Bill of Rights.
Thank you.
People will be safe and secure and know that their Bill of Rights are being protected, and the ultimate protector in the county is the sheriff. And if they're not going to do that, then they shouldn't be running.
Absolutely. And I've stated before that, and I think I quoted you, probably misquoted you, but if your sheriff is not willing to stand up and state that where he stands on some of these issues, then he's not the right guy for you to be electing. And not only a sheriff, but also your state and federal and local representatives, if they're not willing to stand there and tell you that they are going to defend your constitutional rights and the amendments that are part of that, then they're not the right people for the job. And I'm a firm believer that we are slipping into a dangerous time and period in time right now where, you know, the sheriffs are going to be the ones who are going to stand in the breach. They're going to be the last bulwark of safety for the citizenry in the counties where they stand. And I don't believe that our federal government is going to stop anytime soon. I mean, at this point, we're not only walking towards the cliff, we're at a dead sprint towards the cliff of totalitarianism, in my opinion. And I believe that it's important that sheriffs recognize that this is going to be the future of their role, to make sure that they are standing firm to protect our citizenry against the incursions of state and federal government.